Macbeth is one of William Shakespeare's most famous plays, a dark and thrilling tragedy about ambition, power, and guilt. It tells the story of a Scottish nobleman named Macbeth, who is driven to commit terrible acts after receiving a prophecy from three witches. The play explores how his choices, spurred by his own desires and the influence of others, lead to his downfall. This summary will explain the story in simple English, breaking it down into clear paragraphs to cover the major events, characters, and themes. It will dive deep into the plot to meet the requested length, giving a detailed account of what happens in the play while keeping the language straightforward. The story begins on a dark, stormy heath in Scotland, where three witches, often called the Weird Sisters, meet. They speak in mysterious, rhyming words, planning to meet Macbeth, a brave Scottish general, after a battle. Their eerie presence sets a creepy tone, hinting that something unnatural is about to happen. Meanwhile, King Duncan of Scotland is leading his army against rebels and invaders, including the traitorous Thane of Cawdor. Macbeth, a loyal nobleman, and his friend Banquo fight bravely in the battle. Their courage helps Duncan's forces win, and the king is impressed by Macbeth's heroism. News of the victory reaches Duncan, and he decides to reward Macbeth by giving him the title of Thane of Cawdor, since the previous Thane betrayed him and will be executed. After the battle, Macbeth and Banquo are traveling when they come across the three witches on the heath. The witches greet Macbeth with strange titles: Thane of Glamis, which he already is, Thane of Cawdor, which he doesn't yet know he's been given, and King hereafter. They also tell Banquo that he will not be king, but his descendants will be. The predictions confuse and excite Macbeth. He wonders how he could become king, since Duncan is still alive and has two sons, Malcolm and Denalban. Banquo is more cautious, warning Macbeth that the witches might be tricking them with half-truths. When messengers arrive and tell Macbeth he's now the Thane of Cawdor, just as the witches predicted, Macbeth starts to believe their prophecy. The idea of becoming king takes root in his mind, though he tries to push it away at first. Macbeth writes a letter to his wife, Lady Macbeth, telling her about the witch's prophecy. Lady Macbeth is ambitious and ruthless, and she immediately sees the prophecy as a chance for power. When she learns that King Duncan is coming to stay at their castle, she starts plotting to kill him so Macbeth can take the throne. She worries that Macbeth is too kind-hearted to do what's needed, so she decides to push him into action. When Macbeth arrives home, she urges him to murder Duncan that night. Macbeth is torn. He knows killing the king is wrong, and he's loyal to Duncan, who has just honored him. But the thought of being king is tempting, and Lady Macbeth's determination sways him. She comes up with a plan. They'll get Duncan's guards drunk, kill the king, and frame the guards for the crime. That night, Macbeth carries out the plan, though he's haunted by fear and guilt. While Duncan sleeps, Macbeth stabs him to death. Lady Macbeth helps cover up the murder by placing the bloody daggers on the guards. When the king's body is discovered the next morning, everyone is shocked. Macbeth acts outraged and kills the guards before they can defend themselves, claiming he was overcome with anger. Duncan's sons, Malcolm and Denalban, sense danger and flee Scotland, fearing for their lives. Because the princes are gone, suspicion falls on them, and Macbeth is quickly named king. The witch's prophecy has come true, but Macbeth's rise to power is built on blood and betrayal. Even as king, Macbeth is not at peace. He's paranoid, especially about Banquo, who knows about the witch's prophecy and whose children are supposed to inherit the throne. Macbeth fears Banquo's honesty and suspects he might challenge him. He also feels guilty about what he's done, and his conscience torments him. To secure his position, Macbeth hires murderers to kill Banquo and his young son, Flens. The murderers ambush Banquo and kill him, but Flens escapes. This failure worries Macbeth, as the prophecy about Banquo's descendants still threatens his legacy. At a banquet that night, Macbeth sees Banquo's ghost sitting at the table, invisible to everyone else. The ghost's presence terrifies him, and he acts strangely in front of his guests, ranting and shouting. Lady Macbeth tries to calm him and explain his behavior as a fit, but Macbeth's guilt and fear are starting to unravel him. Meanwhile, the Scottish nobles begin to suspect Macbeth's involvement in Duncan's murder. One noble, Macduff, is particularly distrustful. He refuses to attend Macbeth's coronation and starts to rally support against him. Macbeth, growing more desperate, visits the witches again to learn his future. They show him 3 visions: a floating head warning him to beware of Macduff, a bloody child saying no man born of a woman can harm him, and a crowned child holding a tree, telling him he'll be safe until Burnham Wood comes to Dunsinane Hill. These prophecies make Macbeth feel invincible, but the witches also show him a line of kings descended from Banquo, which enrages him. Determined to eliminate any threats, Macbeth orders his men to attack Macduff's castle and kill his wife, children, and everyone else there. This brutal act shocks Scotland and turns more people against Macbeth. In England, Macduff has joined forces with Malcolm, Duncan's son, who is gathering an army to overthrow Macbeth. When Macduff learns that his family has been slaughtered, he's devastated and vows revenge. Malcolm tests Macduff's loyalty to make sure he's not a spy for Macbeth, but once convinced, they plan to march on Scotland. Back in Scotland, Lady Macbeth's guilt begins to consume her. She sleepwalks at night, trying to wash imaginary blood from her hands and muttering about the murders. Her mental state collapses, and she becomes a shadow of her former ambitious self. Macbeth, too, is increasingly isolated. He trusts no one, and his tyranny makes him hated by his people. Yet he clings to the witches' prophecies, believing he cannot be defeated. As Malcolm's army approaches, Macbeth prepares to defend his castle at Dunsinane. The English and Scottish forces use branches from Burnham Wood to disguise their numbers, making it look like the forest itself is moving toward the castle. This fulfills one of the witches' prophecies, shaking Macbeth's confidence. Still, he fights on, trusting that no man born of a woman can kill him. In the final battle, Macduff confronts Macbeth. He reveals that he was not born in the usual way but was delivered by caesarean section, meaning he's not technically born of a woman. This twist crushes Macbeth's last hope. Macduff kills him in combat, ending his reign of terror. Malcolm's forces win the battle, and he is declared the rightful king of Scotland. The country begins to heal from Macbeth's tyranny, and order is restored. The play ends with Malcolm preparing to rule, while the witch's influence lingers as a reminder of the dangers of unchecked ambition. Macbeth's story is a warning about how far someone can fall when they let greed and power corrupt them. To expand on the story, let's look closer at the characters and their motivations. Macbeth starts as a hero, admired for his bravery and loyalty. But the witch's prophecy plants a seed of ambition that grows into obsession. His internal struggle is a key part of the play. He knows killing Duncan is wrong, yet he can't resist the temptation of power. His soliloquies, moments where he speaks his thoughts aloud, show his torment. For example, before the murder, he imagines a dagger floating before him, a symbol of his guilt and hesitation. This inner conflict makes Macbeth a complex character, not just a villain but a man undone by his own choices. Lady Macbeth is equally fascinating. At first, she's the driving force behind the murder, pushing Macbeth to act when he wavers. She challenges his manhood and questions his courage, manipulating him into following through. But her strength crumbles as guilt takes over. Her sleepwalking scene is one of the most powerful moments in the play, showing how even the most ruthless people can be haunted by their actions. Her descent into madness contrasts with Macbeth's growing numbness. While she breaks under the weight of guilt, he becomes more reckless, ordering murders without hesitation. The witches add a supernatural element to the story. They don't force Macbeth to do anything, but their predictions shape his decisions. Are they controlling fate, or are they just showing Macbeth what he wants to see? Shakespeare leaves this ambiguous, letting the audience decide. The witch's cryptic words and eerie presence create a sense of mystery, making the play feel like a mix of reality and nightmare. Their role also ties into the theme of fate versus free will, a question that runs through the entire story. Banquo serves as a contrast to Macbeth. He hears the witch's prophecy too but doesn't act on it. His caution and honor highlight Macbeth's flaws. Banquo's murder shows how far Macbeth has fallen. He's willing to kill his best friend to protect his crown. Flint's escape, though, keeps the prophecy alive, suggesting that Macbeth's efforts to control the future are doomed. The witch's vision of Banquo's descendants as kings haunts Macbeth, fueling his paranoia. Macduff emerges as the play's hero. Unlike Macbeth, he's driven by loyalty to Scotland and a desire for justice. His grief over his family's death is heartbreaking, and his determination to defeat Macbeth gives the story a sense of hope. Malcolm, too, represents hope for Scotland's future. His decision to test Macduff's loyalty shows he's cautious but wise, qualities that will make him a better king than Macbeth. The play's themes are timeless. Ambition is at the heart of the story, showing how it can corrupt even good people. Macbeth and Lady Macbeth want more than they have, and their greed leads to destruction. Guilt is another major theme. Both Macbeth and Lady Macbeth are tormented by what they've done, though they handle it differently. The play also explores power and its consequences. Macbeth's rise to the throne brings him no happiness, only fear and isolation. Finally, the question of fate versus free will runs through the story. Did the witches control Macbeth's destiny, or did he choose his path? Shakespeare's language, even in a simplified summary, carries weight. The play is full of memorable lines, like Macbeth's reflection on life as a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. This comes near the end, when he realizes his ambition has led to nothing but loss. The imagery of blood, darkness, and storms reinforces the play's grim mood. Blood represents guilt, appearing in Macbeth's visions and Lady Macbeth's sleepwalking. Darkness, from the stormy heath to the night of Duncan's murder, symbolizes evil. The witch's spells and the ghost of Banquo add a supernatural layer, making the story feel otherworldly. The setting of medieval Scotland adds to the play's atmosphere. Castles, battles, and a rugged landscape create a world where violence and betrayal feel close at hand. The political context, kings, thanes, and rebellions, grounds the story in a specific time, but its themes are universal. Anyone who's ever wanted something too much or felt guilty for a mistake can relate to Macbeth's struggles. To meet the word count, let's explore the play's events in more detail, focusing on key moments and their impact. The witches' first appearance is crucial. Their strange, chanting dialogue, "Fair is foul, and foul is fair," sets up the idea that things are not what they seem. This paradox runs through the play, as Macbeth's honorable exterior hides his growing corruption. The witch's prophecy doesn't just predict the future, it changes how Macbeth sees himself. He starts as a loyal soldier, but the idea of being king shifts his perspective. His ambition, once a quiet spark, becomes a fire that consumes him. The murder of Duncan is the turning point. Macbeth's hesitation before the act shows he's not naturally evil. He lists reasons not to kill Duncan. He's a good king, a guest in Macbeth's home, and a kinsman. But Lady Macbeth's influence overrides his doubts. Her plan is clever. She uses Duncan's trust in them to ensure the murder goes smoothly. The moment Macbeth stabs Duncan is a point of no return. He describes his hands as stained with blood that can never be washed away, a sign of the guilt that will haunt him. The aftermath of the murder shows how quickly things spiral. Macbeth's decision to kill the guards is impulsive, meant to silence any suspicion, but it raises questions among the nobles. Duncan's sons fleeing makes Macbeth's path to the throne easier, but it also plants seeds of distrust. The coronation should be a moment of triumph, but Macbeth feels no joy. His crown is tainted, and he knows it. This unease drives him to his next crime, ordering Banquo's murder. The banquet scene, where Banquo's ghost appears, is one of the play's most dramatic moments. Macbeth's terror and outbursts shock his guests, who see nothing. The ghost could be real or a product of Macbeth's guilt-ridden mind. Shakespeare leaves it unclear. Either way, it shows how Macbeth's crimes are catching up with him. Lady Macbeth's attempts to cover for him highlight their strained partnership. She was once the stronger one, but now Macbeth is acting on his own, making decisions without her. The witch's second appearance deepens the supernatural element. Their visions are cryptic but seem to promise safety. The idea that no man born of a woman can harm Macbeth makes him feel untouchable, but the prophecy about Burnham would hint at danger. The vision of Banquo's descendants as kings pushes Macbeth to new lows. His decision to slaughter Macduff's family is his most monstrous act, showing how far he's fallen from the honorable man he once was. This massacre also marks a shift in the play's momentum, as it unites the nobles against him. Lady Macbeth's decline is tragic in its own way. Her sleepwalking scene, where she tries to scrub imaginary blood from her hands, shows her guilt in vivid detail. She mutters about Duncan's murder and Banquo's death, revealing how deeply the crimes have affected her. Her death, which happens offstage, is reported simply, she, by self and violent hands, took her life. This understated end contrasts with her earlier boldness, showing how guilt destroyed her. The final battle is fast-paced and intense. Macbeth clings to the witch's prophecies, but the sight of Burnham Wood moving, soldiers carrying branches, shatters his confidence. Macduff's revelation about his birth is the final blow. Their fight is personal, driven by Macduff's grief and Macbeth's defiance. Macbeth's death feels inevitable, but his refusal to surrender shows his stubborn courage. Malcolm's victory restores order, but the play doesn't end on a purely happy note. The witch's influence and the cost of Macbeth's actions linger. In conclusion, Macbeth is a gripping story of ambition, guilt, and downfall. Its characters, from the conflicted Macbeth to the ruthless Lady Macbeth to the honorable Macduff, bring its themes to life. The witch's prophecies add mystery, while the play's dark imagery creates a haunting atmosphere. Shakespeare's tale warns of the dangers of unchecked desire and the price of betraying one's values. By following Macbeth's journey from hero to tyrant, the play shows how choices shape destiny, leaving a lasting impact on readers and audiences. Please like and share the video. Subscribe the channel.